Oh, we're live. Hi. I'm going to put on my little countdown timer here to get you guys all worked up. there. Welcome. Here I am, and there's at least one person out there I know right now. I'm Lama Ling. Let me see if I can pull up a screen with my name on it. La 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 la. Oh, well now I look important. Oh, Lori la. What a day, huh? We're gonna soldier on. Try to get this story told because it's important. Okay, so I feel a little bit, I've been sort of collecting materials for this wonderful story of Lama Ling in Tibet for months now, and I'm so glad I'm not writing a book about it, because otherwise I'd be going on and on researching probably for my rest of my life and never get around, never feel it was perfect enough, because I have a lot of faith. Oh, I see, the camera doesn't go down anymore when I bring the thing down. I have a lot of faith in Dudjom RInpoche. He's kind of like the opposite of a narcissistic. We imagine the guru's gone astray in whatever time and era. Like people, instead of having qualities, they rose into prominence because they had a wealthy backers, or because they had a charismatic personality, or were a dynamic speaker. But Kyabje Dudjom RInpoche was not like that. It was, yes, he was discovered as the tuku of not that famous lama at that time. Dudjom Lingpa was not someone who had thousands and thousands of students. He was in remote Golok, and then he was reborn in remote Pemaka. We'll show you where that is on the map in a little bit, but we've already done some episodes on that. And yet, quickly, because of his qualities and his emergence as a child prodigy, a great writer, artist, probably a great dancer. I haven't read so much about that. Everything he did perfectly. Not just doing, but being. All right. So one of Lori's telling me that the live stream's a little unstable. Shouldn't be on my end because I got that magical fiber with really speedy internet these days. So I don't think we're going to have a problem there. So where we left off about a month and a half ago in our storytelling about Dudjom RInpoche, and I'm going to link them all up so that you can follow a trail, like a breadcrumb trail, through these stories about Dudjom RInpoche. He was sort of wandering in central Tibet, actually all over Tibet. I guess where he would be invited to stay as a young man. So he was born in 1904. So up until 1930, he didn't have after not being given permission by the central government of Tibet to have a center, which he really already had in Pemaka. He didn't build his own center until 1930, and he'd already been to an area called Kongpo in southern or southeastern Tibet, but to give a number of empowerments and so forth. But in 1930, let's back up a little bit and say something about this particular spot. So there's a particular spot, and I'm going to show a slideshow, which will show you on a map why it's so special. But it was like a geomantic point, or like say like the Earth, an energetic center, like an acupuncture center on the Earth. That was very powerful. And way, way back, and before Guru Rinpoche and Songten Gampo's time, it was recognized as such. So I think there was some kind of temple that was the first Dharma king, and we're Dharma wasn't really established 100% in Tibet, Songtsen Gampo, he put a temple there. And many others kept putting temples and rebuilding them. I imagine partly that's the reason they were rebuilt so often is because it was a geologically active area, maybe even more so than Oakland, California, where I'm coming from right now. So in 1930, well, yeah, and I can't go on without mentioning, of course, Guru Rinpoche, who also established a temple there and identified it also after Santa Kempo's time as a very important energetic point. I'm not liking where that sign is. Let me unlock it and move it. I feel like that's too high. There we go. So it's associated with Guru Rinpoche and then the first Dharma king. Very important place. And in 1930, the temple that was there collapsed in an earthquake. And soon thereafter, I don't know exactly in what year, it's not documented in what I have available to me, Dudjom RInpoche then was, I presume, invited to come and build the next temple. And so he did. And not only did that, he established it as his center of operations, so to speak. And you'll see when I show you a picture of the contours of the land. And this is how Lama Tarchin Rinpoche explained it to me when he told me about it. Somehow I was having a conversation with him one time because he lived there. He was raised there. There were like the 5 fingers of a hand. There were 5 mountains, or maybe my kind of thumb there. You can look at the map and when I show you and decide what you think. There's a thumb in there or not. There was a principal temple which was called Dechen Teng. And there was a monastery called Sangchen Usul Namdrling for the ordained Sangha, meaning the monks and nuns. There was Lama Ling, which served, I don't know what order I'm going on, mainly ngakpas or non-monastic lamas like Lama Tarchin, and retreatants and lay practitioners. And there was Rigsen Gatsaling, which was named after his first wife, Songyam Kusho Tsetan Yudren. I don't know how that comes down to Rigsen Gatsaling, but somehow. And served as the residence and personal retreat center for Dudjom Rinpoche and his wife. And then there was Zondok Polri Monastery on a small hill nearby named Jewel Mountain. And Zondok Polri is a name of Guru Rinpoche's Pure Land. So if we pray to go to Guru Rinpoche's Pure Land when we die, what better place for Nyingma practitioners? We're praying to go to Zondok Polri. And it's customary to make a representation of this Pure Land in a multi-tiered, like 4-storied, roughly octagonal building structure, a temple. And it's very, very auspicious to be able to make one of these. And he made one of those. So on a small hill nearby, he put the Zondok Polri temple. So my Lama Tarchin Rinpoche was, let's see, I'm trying to get what year he was born in. I don't know, but he was definitely there in the 40s when the Zondok Polri Monastery was damaged again by earthquakes. And the temple was destroyed, but a small part of a Chemchok Heruka image, which is like a wrathful Samantabhadra. And then he went around doing all sorts of, like interventions energetically to try to restore the balance of the earth there and prevent further, or stave off at least further earthquakes. And So what would that look like if we were traditional Tibetan Buddhist practitioners? He put very earth vases. Have you seen them? Yes, Lori, I know you've seen earth vases because you gave me one. You and my Vajra sisters and brothers. So it's on my shrine. And he would bury those filled with a certain way and consecrated in a certain way to stabilize the land. And build stupas in certain places. These are reliquaries or Chorten in Tibetan, which are, they hold the most essential ingredient is the relics of past Buddhas, meaning pieces of bone, hair, anything, any piece that you have possession of. So he settled there in the 30s and came on and with his wife, his first wife, who was called Sangyam Kusho Satan Yudran. And they had 7 children. And she was an unusual person. I have here this book, which is quite a read. Tinley Norbo Rinpoche's Brief Fantasy History of a Himalayan. And let's see a picture of Dongse Rinpoche in a little bit. Actually, I might only put it on now. Not work? Oh, make it bigger, Yudrin. So here is to the left here, the gentleman standing is Dongse Tinley Norbo Rinpoche, and to the right is his wife in Bhutan later on. And then there's their son, Zongsar Khyentse Rinpoche, and when he was little. So many of us know Dongse Tinley Norbo Rinpoche came to live in the United States, and Zongsar Khyentse Rinpoche turned out to be one of the most important lamas in the world today. Still is. So I wanted to read a little bit about Rinpoche's first wife, because we always wonder, why would a holy being, well, we don't know. So Dudjom Rinpoche had a divorce, and I think that makes him relatable, because he was like the perfect Lama, the perfect Terten, really the Buddha, in our minds, like the perfect treasure revealer and great Lama of the 20th century. And he had political problems. I think somewhere I heard one of his sons say it was financially very difficult to build Lama Ling and support this large family. He had, and then one relationship didn't endure for the entirety of his life. So he's, in that sense, as an incarnate being, we can relate to him, right? He underwent a lot of hardship and difficult times. And you'd never know it from his writings, because his mind was always like dwelling in this perfectly poised and non-dual expanse, the great expanse of awakening. So I'm pulling out the part. Nobody writes a lot about, the main books about this period are that one, and then Light of Fearless Indestructible Wisdom, again, I'm sorry. The Life and Legacy of Dudjom Rinpoche by Khenpo Tsewon Dongya. And then the Rigpa Wiki and the Wikipedia. Okay, so he talks about his mother. I guess this was written at a time when she was still with us, probably. So he talks about his mom a little bit. Her nature is always unpossessive and eccentric, detached and untouchable. She's always worshiping, praying, and making offerings. She especially likes to make offerings with fresh water, and wherever she stays, she's always bringing water, filling empty pots with water, scattering water everywhere. When it rains, even if she's only half dressed, she runs outside, holding cups up to the sky to collect water for offerings. She is so much in love with water. She seems like an emanation of Mamaki. Mamaki is the embodiment of the water element. She prefers candles to electricity, and her house looks like a chicken coop because the floor is covered with thousands of drops of wax. Sometimes in the autumn, she can be seen climbing the fruit trees to pick fruit for offerings from her pure intention before they've dropped onto the land. She avoids the people left to care of her, saying that they prevent her from being free, and she prefers to be looked after by careless youngsters because they let her do whatever she wishes. She likes to cook by herself and has often burned her clothes when she took the pots off the stove with her sleeves and skirt. When we scold her and say, "This is not according to correct worldly custom," or "This is not according to correct Dharma custom," she answers, "There is no meaning to correct worldly custom, so how can I act according to it? There is no substance to correct Dharma custom, so how can I act according to it?" Many ordinary people think my mother is crazy and insult her. And many sublime beings say she is truly a wisdom skygoer and praise her. She always loves, praises, and prays for each of her children from her heart. She didn't know how to teach us to support ourselves in a worldly way. She only tried to lead us to Dharma. From a loving son, Tenzin Norpa Rinpoche. And then he describes, it's a wonderful, I highly recommend this book, because rarely in the Tibetan, usually in Tibetan way of writing, and I respect it, things are always formal, and modest, and you don't discuss difficult topics. You discuss uplifting, pleasant topics, which is these are some of the reasons we love the Tibetan people. So, but here, Dongsen Rinpoche, who was not afraid to say how he felt, said, when I was 13 years old, I heard one of my teachers whispering with his friends that my parents were separated. But I didn't understand clearly what he meant. When I was 17 years old and went to visit my parents at the center of Snowland was Tibet, I still had the habit of seeing them together, but when I arrived at my father's house, I couldn't find my mother because they had separate homes. For a moment, I felt as if I had lost my precious heart. Soon my mother sent for me, and I went to see her with my brothers and sisters who were staying at home. And from then on, we went back and forth between our parents' houses. And Pema Dorje told me even later when Rinpoche remarried, they had a throne for her, and she was always there in the shrine room, treated with honor and dignity. So I just want to say that because women, also women are never, our stories aren't told so much. And so in the 30s, he remarried later on, and Songyum Kusho Tsetan Yidrin. And they had a whole, oh, I'm sorry, I said the name wrong. Songyum Rigzerwamo, I apologize. And they had 4 children. So not all the children survived. So the main children of Dudjom Rinpoche that we know in the United States are Tenzin Norpa Rinpoche, who settled in upstate New York, and Shenpen Dawa Rinpoche, who settled in New York City and also in upstate New York. They had another center. And then Rinpoche's wife, settled in retreat at Shamatha and Vipasyana Center in New York City, and passed there a few years ago. So there, but in this time, so he's abiding at this place. And I just want to read you a little bit about a whole area became known as Lama Ling, even though that technically that was the name of the Nakpa Center. And who were these Nakpas? Well, it was a group of really the children of lamas, um, boys and girls, and the elder lamas who are the close heart disciples, non-monastic close disciples of Rinpoche's. And in the Nakpa tradition, a lot of emphasis is placed on ritual, dance, music, perfecting your body through difficult yogic practices, lots and lots of mantra power, lots and lots of practice, years of retreat. So Lama Tarchen Rinpoche did 8 years of retreat completely, and 3 of them were in a group retreat, formal group retreat, there at Lama Ling in seclusion, and with four men directly under Dudjom Rinpoche's guidance. Isn't that amazing? In the famous book, the Riche Mountain Dharma, it's a famous small pamphlet, I guess I'd say, not even a whole book about how to practice in retreat that we've expanded, it gets expanded to how to practice it all. It was written by Dudjom Rinpoche for those 4 retreatants. So, let me see now. Lama Ling. Is there anything I missed here to say about that? I don't think so. I think that's enough. I managed to work my way through it all right. So we're not going to quite leave Tibet yet in our storytelling. Next week we're going to talk about the discovery of 2 more treasures, or terma, the Vajrakalaya and Dorje Trolla, that were discovered in Bhutan. But because this is a long period of Dudjom Rinpoche's life, from the 1930 through when he had to leave the country in the late 50s. But safe to say, they had to abandon Lama Ling after the door was locked. His family, Lama Tarchen Dudjom Rinpoche left wisely or pretty early on, and then foreseeing what was going to happen, he did another foray back in to pick up some more texts, and other people did forays for him to gather up important objects that needed to be saved inside Tibet. But Lama Tarchen Rinpoche's family stayed to, and perhaps other people, I think one of his sons, I believe so, stayed until the new forces, the Communist Party, Chinese Communists, locked the temple for the last time, the main temple. And they said to themselves, we're going to stay till that point, and then we're going to escape. How would they escape? I'm just going to tell the story about Lama Tarchen Rinpoche's escape that he told us. And that was, so his father was pretty old. And they started while they were planning, they started pretending like he had dementia. And he was, so he would, there's the hill, up the hill in the way heading towards India. This is on the border with India. He would pretend to wander up there confused. And then they would call the Chinese police to try to help retrieve him from the mountainside. Again and again, he would go, no, he's gone up there again. Would you help us bring him down? And finally, they said, Lama Tarchen said, who was a teen, said, oh, don't worry, next time I'll just go up and get him, right? So That's what they did. They pretended that he wandered off, so he was all the way, up the mountain, and they pretended to be way up high where they, couldn't easily catch up with him. And they went up there and then kept going. Isn't that clever? So many people pray, and then it's not that easy. You have to climb over the Himalayas, right? Not easy. A tragic time. So I'm going to describe the monastery a little bit before I show the slideshow, because it'll go pretty fast, because I'm not a very good slideshow maker. This new Zondapari that they rebuilt the Zondapari in 1987. The Dudjom RInpoche's son was killed in the Cultural Revolution by the Chinese, and then his daughter went, who was I think living in Lhasa, if I have this right, Sammo Dechen Yudren, and her husband Lama Chini went to Lama Ling and rebuilt the Zondapari temple in 1987. And there's a main temple there too. And so they rebuild everything, and it's fantastic. And it's because it's on the border, it's in an area that is now restricted. But I have my friends John and Kate took a couple of photos of the lamas and the temple in 1993. So it's actually only 6 years after it was restored. They also put a Dorje Drolo, demon subduing temple there. Let's look. You can read the description in the Wikipedia of the architectural features and statues and so forth, but I think that we don't have time for that. Okay, let's get the movie out. Movie, where are you? Lama Ling. Here we go. Oh, it's good you get into Indian territory. Okay, so now you see the Kongpo. This is the general area they're in. And there's a big, used to be a debate over whether this was Eastern Tibet. So you see Kham written over there, and then you see Lhasa to the left in black writing, Lhasa, Kongpo and Kham. And there was an argument, sort of Chamdo is also considered to be part of Eastern Tibet. So there were debates among the Tibetans about whether Kongpo belonged to Central Tibet or to Eastern Tibet. And Lama Tarchen Rinpoche wrote a book, a little booklet, discussing the debate, and sold it during the 60s when they were, in their exile community in India. It became a bestseller because it was a debate and controversy that a lot of people engaged in. So here is, I'm sorry the printing hasn't come out, but you can see the contours of the land here. You see how it looks like fingers going up. And now that I look at it, having looked at slides, I don't think my pointer works, but if it does, I'm going to put it up there. This is, I think all the buildings and everything. This is what's called Lama Ling now broadly. The whole compound with the various temples and such. But what it really says in the fine print as you go up the winding road to one of the fingertips is Lama Ling Monastery up there. So it's one of the other sub-temples now. It's easier to build on flat than it is way up on a mountaintop, right? And you can look at the various other peaks around there and can kind of guess where Dudjom Rinpoche's house was. And the other compounds, the monastery and so forth. I haven't met anybody who was part of the monastery. Maybe if you're on here and you're Tibetan or from that era, or you're a Lama, you could tell me whether the monastery in Kongpo, anybody came forth from that. Okay, and here are, this is Lama Chini and Samo Dechen Yudrin. And she was a great practitioner of Troma Nakmo, the wrathful Dakini. Now, these two were taken by John Pfeiffer in 1993. Aren't they beautiful? And so they rebuilt all of that stuff. And there she is at a younger age. And there she is as an older age. Really, everyone respected her. A great practitioner. And then behind the back, you can see the top of the Zondok Palri temple rebuilt. 4 stories. You see it's all wooded around there behind her back. And now I want to point out here, if you're, I think most of you know this, but those of you who don't, this beaded necklace around her neck is called a mala. And she's attached to it a bunch of different counters. The counters are like abacus. Usually they're silver, and you push one of the markers up a string each time you get to 100. So you do 1 round of counting prayers or mantras on your beads of your necklace, and then you push one up, and then another up to 10, and then you may have another one, like she does have, I think 3 here, and she would push up 1 bead for every 1,000, and then often there's a marker. Oh, I'm hearing sounds. What that's about? Why am I hearing sounds? Okay. Interesting. I'm hearing monastery sounds, but I don't have the slideshow running at the point where there are monastery sounds. Wow, that was interesting. So here she is again. And here's Lama Chinni close up. I don't know if he's passed or not. Maybe one of you can tell me. David, if you're here today, maybe you can tell me. What a wonderful Lama. So incredible accomplishment. So much accomplishment. Look at this. Here's the side of the temple. Some nuns looking through some gates to the main temple. Prayer wheel turning. There you can see the Zondok Palri temple in the distance. And okay, here I'm going to stop for a sec, because this is not the Zondok Palri temple. This is called the Old Temple. And again, I haven't been here. It's a restricted area now for a long time. Yeah, don't try to go there. It just caused trouble. So all we can do is go on the photographs and movies from people who are allowed to go there. We Americans and Europeans can't at this time. And there is the Zondok Palri temple thrown in again. Oh, there it is. Some local people. Zondok Palri again. Isn't that beautiful? They did that. This isn't a lineage with like billionaires in it. They have to do this one, donation at a time, I imagine. That's from the top or side view of the Zondok Palri. Look at all that artistic work up in the eaves there. 4 stories. Here's a picture from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. There's another picture from Wikipedia from a distance. It doesn't look that tall from the bottom, does it? And here's the Shakyamuni Buddha from inside. It's pretty large, they say. And here is a Chenrezi, 4-armed Chenrezi. And And there's Guru Rinpoche. I did see there is a movie if you poke around for under Lama Ling on YouTube. There is a film of the inside of the temple with the live reciting Sampa Nirjugma or the Prayer to Rinpoche in 7 chapters maybe together. And these days it's behind a screen, kind of protective, you know, what am I going to call it, net to prevent damage or theft. But I didn't want to show it here because actually pictures inside the inside of a temple are not cool. They ask you not to do them. But this is the outer inside. I think that was okay. It's all those people doing their prostrations. Perhaps they're doing their nundro. It's kind of a walkway around the inside of the octagon, right? And there's various chapels off the sides with protector temples. And then here's someone doing his nundro, right? Look at that beautiful mandala pan, and he's using like barley seeds to do his mandala accumulations for his nundro. If you want to know about any of those things, just throw a question up. The people I can see right now know about, this is the outer Kora circle again. The people that I know on here know what our foundational practices are, but I'm happy to explain what that means, a mandala offering. This really moves me. I assumed everything was destroyed in the Cultural Revolution, and this wasn't left standing from the old days. But maybe it was from before 1987, I don't know. Just something about this grabs me. The other temple there. You never can tell what's going to grab you. From this roof, from this looking down from the fourth story of the Sondok Pori. They're looking around from the Sondok Pori again in a more broad view. And there's a river down there in the basin. It's a branch of the Brahmaputra, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that's the end. I couldn't get rid of this lady for some reason, even though I couldn't cut her out, so she must need to be there. Okay, now let's bring in full screen again. And, gosh, I changed things around. Okay, we can do this then. Okay, so that's all kind of jumbled up. Are you getting throw a comment in there. Do you have any questions about Lama Ling or Dudjom Rinpoche during this period? He was engaged full on in massive activities of giving empowerments, teaching people in 3-year retreat, writing. He wrote a lot of supposed non-Terma texts. His true disciples felt that everything he did was Terma, a treasure from Guru Rinpoche, because that's just who he was. But as far as he would annotate things, a lot of his writings were not Terma. They were from his wisdom mind. And our 3-year retreat center that I participated in, many people did. With Lama Tarchin, basically run totally traditionally exactly the same way they were trained. I mean, probably Lama Tarchin talked to us a little bit differently, I don't know. But he was asked by Dongsa Rinpoche to do things exactly the way they used to be. So I'm so grateful. And as you know, one of the main Tertons or treasure revealers of the 20th century, he brought to light many practices that were appropriate to Tibet in the early earlier time before 1950 and also before 1960. Longer sadhanas and extensive practices that go on for days. So he wrote all those out perfectly. He wrote scholarly texts for great scholars. And then he wrote practices that are so short. You know, we need short practices, right? Short, right to the point, involve, you know, all the blessings and richness of the more elaborate practices, but appropriate for us. In fact, he wrote a few little practices. There's one I'm thinking of, a very short Yeshasogyo practice that he, at the bottom, he said, "This is for some of my American students who don't have a lot of time," right? And he passed into parinirvana in 1987. All right, any questions? Oh, phew. Okay, folks, so we're going to go through the practices of Shamatha and Vipasyana. Now we're going to shift gears and go into practice according to the instruction of Dudjom RInpoche. And we'll start with relaxing into Shamatha or Shine, and then we'll use the practices for recognizing the illusory nature of outer phenomena, and then we'll do the practices of recognizing the illusory nature of our own thing we regard as ourselves. Okay? So this is a little bit of refresher. So first of all, find a comfortable seat, way of sitting. And let's do what Dudjom RInpoche said here. Let's let our breath settle naturally. Sever all mental fabrications. Don't disturb the mind. Allow the mind to settle without creating anything and without distraction. If you can settle like that, it is sufficient. Now, look at outer appearances. That means everything you see. You can see them. There's something that appears. It doesn't really exist. Just hazy. Have that feeling. This is a practice, remember? Hazy, insubstantial appearances. Like a magical illusion. An appearance in a dream. It's so ethereal, you can see right through them. Whatever you think you see, whatever apparent object arises, gaze directly at its very essence, without impeding its appearances. Clarity, emptiness, free from the stain of mental grasping like space, arises naked and unimpeded. Settle naturally in that. Now turn your attention inward. And when a thought arises, you ask it, where did you first come from? Where are you now, thought? In the end, where will you go? What shape are you? What color are you? Without even a moment's distraction, search up and down, look everywhere, solely for this knowledge. Refrain from identifying or analyzing anything at all. A clear, naked awareness arises, open like the sky. Ineffable. Can't put it in words. All mental activity is exhausted. Everything's come to an end. No more possibilities. Entirely free from activity. Like resting when you're exhausted. Settle into a relaxed ease in that very state of naturalness. No mental activity at all. The inner glow, along with its bliss, are unimpeded. Without clinging to any appearances, settle evenly in the state of naturalness. Free of solidity, constraint, and coarseness. Okay, so I see your question and I will answer it, Lori. Um, David, are you here today? We were going to talk about those questions. Trying to get my picture back here. Let's see, scenes. There it is. That one's not working. This one will work. Jeff's here. Okay. Hi, Jeff. So we're running a little. It is 7 o'clock, but I'm curious if anybody has any impression from experientially, what's it like to ask yourself those questions, talking to your thoughts in the second person. Hi, Jeff. So what does it do to your meditation to ask those questions? Because Dudjom RInpoche thought it was important, so it's got to be important. And Lama Rinpoche felt that people move on too long, too short, quickly from those practices which are, some lamas call them analytical meditation. It's not like using that part of your brain. It's not contemplation coupled, asking a question and then relaxing. Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and I'll answer this question from Lori. Does the Yeshe Sogel practice require an empowerment? Yes, in short. I can give it to you, and I can give you the longer reading transmission. It's 1 page. This one I'm thinking of. There's 2. There's a longer, short one. But basically, in order to really benefit from any deity practice, you need to receive the empowerment, the reading transmission, and the instructions about how to do the practice. So it's very important not to underestimate the moment when Dudjom Nyangsi comes to the United States, or in our case, and to Australia in Jeff's case, and gives these empowerments, or one of the main lineage holding lamas such as Zongsar Khyentse Rinpoche. If you can, try to drop everything and go, because then you get all these. That's especially for a young tulku. The job is really to give the empowerments of the transmissions, and so to get the main empowerments of the Dudjom Teresar lineage for a Dudjom practitioner is key. And what are they? You trauma, right? Trauma Nakma, Yeshe Sogyal, Kondratuktik. I think I did this last week, but I'm going to repeat myself. Because Dudjom Nyangsi actually himself told me this. You've got these 5 main practices. These are key. So then Vajkalaya Putri Rekpung, or the really long one, Namchak Putri. Putri Rekpung means like the razor that destroys at a touch. Soki Tukdik, the peaceful Guru Rinpoche, and with Mandarava, long life Guru Rinpoche. Lake-born Vajra is a translation. And then Dorje Trollo, a very, very wrathful emanation of Guru Rinpoche. It's not really translatable. So there's many, many, many empowerments in the Dudjom tradition, but those are the most important. So, and there's also this, someone's been emphasizing the Black Griva practice. So that's another possibility for Yidam practice. Okay. So, any questions? Sometimes it takes a sec from between when you type it in and when it pops up, so that's why I pause there. All right, Jeff, I can't imagine you have any questions. It's nice of you to drop by. Very inspirational. Jeff's an old-timey practitioner. Far more. I know you're humble, so I won't say anything more. But really, really, really wonderful practitioner. And I won't start because I know you like to talk humbly about yourself, just like Dudjom RInpoche did, just like our lamas did. Because as Lama Tarchen Rinpoche said, the danger of every lama has to struggle with pride, every single one. We didn't differentiate, Eastern, Western. Every senior student, we follow our lamas in this Dudjom Tersar. We follow our lama's ways, but we also have to balance. Our lamas make these kind of comments like Jeff is making. Oh, I'm just the most hard-headed one. I'm far more hard-headed than the rest of them. That's our way. It's a way of our lamas, and I'm sure Jeff is never going to stop doing that, no matter what I say to him. But also, we have to remember that I don't know how things are in Australia, Jeff, but here in the United States, and I hear it sometimes in Europe, a lot of people struggle with low self-esteem, and they never think they're good enough to practice. Like they think no matter what they do, they aren't a real practitioner, they aren't good enough, and they can never practice Dzogchen, for example, even though their Lama wants them to, because they never quite felt good enough about their practice to think, oh, I can't do that. But so Lama Tarchen Rinpoche's counter message for us, he said the message is, what's the message? What was Obama's slogan? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And he loved that. And he found with Tibetans, sometimes they had to be brought down. This may not, more and more people say, I've heard Kongpo Rinpoche say, we're all the same more and more, right? Now it's global. And so maybe not as different as it once was. Jeff's nodding his head here. It's true. I'm not insulting Tibetan people. It's good to have confidence. But his approach was like sometimes, talking people down from their high horse a little bit. And then with Americans, where the main place he operated was bringing us up and building confidence. So I kind of, for me, I put a lot of attention into minding my talk, trying to find, how I'm completely appearing on social media. Lori saw me today because we had a important ceremony to do, but generally I'm just a two-dimensional talking head, and I'm very, very careful not to go to one extreme or another of belittling myself or speaking about myself like I'm some great practitioner, which I'm not. So that Carefree Dignity, was that the name of Sokni Rinpoche's book? I thought that was a great title. Relaxed, present, not overstating, not understating, being dignified, but not having a fat head. All right, thanks for staying on with me so long, guys. We run over 10 minutes. And I will see you next week, where we're going to talk about a little turquoise female dog that appeared to Dudjom Rinpoche. And we'll leave it at that for now. Have a great week. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.